what better place to begin a 2-week tour from Philadelphia to Washington, D.C. than in the center of Philadelphia at Rittenhouse Square. This is a lovely park deep in the heart of the city. Or perhaps the best place to start the 2-week tour is right here in front of Independence Hall on Independence Square. Saturday, the sunny weather has gone as we look at where George Washington's White House was before they built the White House in Washington, D.C. Right there.
And the whole idea started because up in Boston, the Port of Boston had been shut down. They were protesting tax, and they were protesting tax on tea.
What is famous about Independence Hall? Well, in 1776, the Declaration of Independence was signed in here, as well as the Constitution.
In May of 1775, we believe they were seated, each colony to a table, geographically, from north to south, by John Adams, Massachusetts. On the afternoon of July the 2nd, independence is voted for in this room.
George Washington's chair. And the last official act of this hall was where Abraham Lincoln lied in state after he was shot. A lot going on at the mall. Here's the Navy graduation. And this is the authentic Liberty Bell that hung in the tower out there. Now it's time for a carriage ride, and this is our carriage. Dolly Madison's house. Here in Signers Hall are the delegates in actual size. Many tower over Janice. The shortest of the delegates is Jane Madison, and Janice is still shorter. But as you can see, I'm taller than James Madison, but most of the delegates are taller than I am. These are big people. I am now standing 10 paces away from Janice, where Aaron Burr stood opposite Hamilton in the duel. Rittenhouse Square, designed by William Penn in the late 1600s. Rittenhouse Square was named after a clockmaker. This sundial is a famous statue of 2 nude children holding up a balloon. Today, this is one of the most exclusive and expensive parks and residential areas in the city. And about 2 blocks from the hotel is the famous Starbucks, where the incident in Philadelphia where 2 blacks were kicked out for not ordering took place.
The merrier we shall be. The longer we sit here and drink, the merrier we shall be. Spring begins.
Sunday evening finds us at a historic hotel, the Gettysburg Hotel, built in 1797. The hotel is located in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, the site of the Battle of Gettysburg in July 1st to 3rd, 1863. Abraham Lincoln stayed in this house, the Wills House, prior to giving his famous speech in November of 1863 to dedicate the cemetery. The Union troops retreated down this road towards Cemetery Ridge and Little Round Top, and the rebels proceeded after them. The place, Seminary Ridge, Confederate lines. There are over 700 monuments marking the battlefield. The architect of this monument, of Robert E. Lee, next went out to South Dakota to carve the faces of the 4 presidents. This is a Napoleon cannon, can shoot a mile.
Thing that does 2 things.
That's a canister ball.
They can go through you at maybe 500 miles an hour. That's what they use to devastate Pickett's Charge later on.
Finally, this is the starting point of Pickett's Charge for Cemetery Ridge. And the charge was aiming for those group of trees in the distance, about 9/10 of a mile away.
We'll go up by way of the south slopes, where after 5 minutes, out of the wooded area straight ahead, the hills known as Big Round Top, the men from Alabama charged and attacked the hill for an hour.
Now we are on the Union side, Little Round Top, looking across the fields to Seminary Ridge, covered in battlefield smoke. These are Parrott cannons, could fire 2 miles and gave the North a technological edge over the South. Pickett's Charge, 3rd day.
Walking towards us.
Furthest point of advance, Meade statue.
There were
170,000 participants, 51,000 casualties. The Gettysburg Museum, and that brings an end to the 3-day Battle of Gettysburg.
So push the bully boys, bring it round to me. The longer we sit here and drink, the merrier we shall be. The longer we sit here and drink, the merrier we shall be.
With the sun out, we are at Harpers Ferry, West Virginia, the site of many a Civil War battle. Besides a few historic buildings and lots of restaurants, there's not very much to do or see in Harpers Ferry. This is a famous bridge. This is where John Brown came across to take the armory. This is where the Confederates charged the town. And finally, this is currently the Appalachian Trail, the halfway point. So the Appalachian Trail to get to Maine, go across the railroad bridge and through a tunnel to get to Georgia. You go down this little hill and go underneath the railroad bridge. The trail continues past John Brown's fort and the firehouse. The year is 1859, and barricaded himself inside this building until Robert E. Lee and Jeb Stuart captured him. After John Brown was captured, after a very short skirmish, he was taken to where we're going next, Charlestown, 5 miles away. So John Brown was marched to this spot where John Brown was promptly hung. Monticello, Thomas Jefferson's home. This is the famous nickel view of Monticello at the top of a pretty steep hill. First part of the tour is getting in the corral to get in line for the tour.
He was 66 years old, a lifetime project. Jefferson was still a child. He used to hike up here because he was born just 2 miles away, and this is the spot he wanted to build his house. It took about 12 servants or so, enslaved house servants, to keep the household running.
Mary Hemingway's house, 130 slaves, that's where she lived. There is no photography allowed inside the beautiful, eclectic, and very modern house. And looking from his balcony, you can see University of Virginia Dome. Now we're going to walk to Jefferson's grave. So this is what's written on his gravestone above, and the dates of his birth and death below, and lots of nickels thrown on the stairs of the stone. Going to take a look at Mikey's Tavern. This is the destination place for lunch. Details. We'll be going to the Ordinary, which is a set menu at a set time. Charlottesville, Virginia. Traditionally, taverns are a place to eat, to sleep, no more than 5 a bed allowed in this place, and to drink. Off to see the other Jefferson building, the Rotunda at the University of Virginia. This is called the Lawn. Some of the oldest buildings designed by Thomas Jefferson on campus. His concept was to have the teachers and students living together. These bigger buildings are called hotels where the teacher lived. This is what one of the dorms looks like for the very special students. Have to be leaders. And this is the inside of the rotunda at the center of the University of Virginia. Day 6 begins in Richmond, Virginia. Columns, Capitol building looks like what we saw at the University of Virginia and at Monticello, so that means yes, Thomas Jefferson designed this building as well. In the center of the rotunda is a statue of George Washington. This is the only statue that George Washington ever posed for. All others statues of him were copied from this statue. 6 feet 2.5, weigh 210 pounds, lifelike statue. The statue of Robert E. Lee dominates this house chamber, and because it's declared a museum, no one has tried to tear it down yet. Now we're going to see the place where Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death took place. It's St. John's Church in Richmond.
Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take. But as for me, give me liberty or give me death.
Pretend I am John Patrick Henry. I am standing here at St. John's Episcopal Church in Richmond, Virginia, and I am speaking to the Congress of Virginia, and I'm trying to convince them to go to war against England, and so I say these famous words: give me liberty or give me death, standing right in this spot. And 3 weeks later, the Battle of Lexington and Concord began. Richmond was also the capital of the Confederacy, and here is the Soldiers' Monument. This is the front side of the White House of the Confederacy, where Jefferson Davis lived. This is the garden side of the White House of the Confederacy. Williamsburg Inn in Williamsburg, Virginia. There are about 4 or 5 restaurants, and this is Christina Campbell's Tavern. Unlike a tavern is where you order off the menu. These are beautiful tables. Dinner with Linda and Trevor.
They had a table up on the table, and they had layers. But how do you find 2 corners? You try bringing it like this. Just put the texture of your food, the texture of your clothing.
Day 7 begins in colonial Williamsburg, where it's warm and very muggy. Williamsburg is real houses that have been restored in the 30s and 40s by Rockefeller. So what is there to do in Williamsburg? You can walk the streets for free, but if you want to go into anything with a flag in front of it, you'll need an admission ticket. Buildings that are open have a flag in front of them. Now we go to the courthouse.
Williamsburg was the social, political, and cultural center for Great Britain's largest and most populous of the North American colonies. Many early Americans traveled here to attend the general courts, create laws, transact business, shop, gamble, go to market.
That's Liberty. Carriage rides are an extra 20. So, horses not good enough? How about cattle? They go a little slower. Like to watch a play at the side of the First Theater in Williamsburg.
Things through the air. I shall discuss it in brevity, so you are all aware.
Now for a tour of the Governor's Palace. This is the authentic entryway of the palace. A armory sitting on the wall in case of trouble.
Despite his unpopular stance, Lord Dunmore was actually very good personal friends with George Washington, so George and Martha were regular visitors here.
From the governor's office to the Capitol, a quarter-mile way.
We're going to be focusing on one particular event in history, and that is the 5th Virginia Convention. May 1776, Virginians and others declare themselves free and independent from England. England, yes indeed, and Britain.
In summary, I think it's safe to say that Williamsburg is Disneyland light.
Of the sea, the very beginning of flight history, the work of two brothers and animals three, Marie Antoinette and the French King Louis.
Day 8. The tour begins after lunch at Mount Vernon. Now we're a lot closer to Mount Vernon. There are huge lines to get into this place. The Grand Parlor. Here's his view of the Potomac River from the porch. This is George Washington's kitchen. Back in the 1770s, the term for an outhouse was a necessary. We've seen Jefferson's too, now it's time for Washington. And there lies his casket, with an eagle on top of this casket.
He falls as leaves do fall, he falls as leaves do fall, he falls as leaves do fall, and run off in October.
With the Washington Monument covered in rain clouds, Day 9, the second to last day of the tour, begins at the Willard Hotel in downtown DC. This is the entry area to the White House. Andrew Jackson statue. This is the extent of the protest today, Saturday, in front of the White House. And there are armed guards in front to protect the front fence. The Lincoln Memorial. Now at the top we can see Abraham Lincoln's monument. And this is the view from the top of Lincoln's Memorial. And right here in a puddle is the exact spot where Martin Luther King gave his I Have a Dream speech. This is the Korea War Memorial, 19 soldiers. In the Korean War Memorial, built 1995, there is always, as you walk around it, at least one soldier looking at you. Now we are leaving this memorial to head to another one. Now we approach the first war memorial, built in 1982, the Vietnam Memorial. 58,000 names on this wall. Reflections are to let people who come see themselves in the wall. Looking down the wall, these tributes are placed during the day and removed at night. Want a name on the wall? Here are the books that will alphabetically organize that will give you the location. Now we're at the World War II Memorial. This memorial was built in 2004. There's an honor flight ceremony in front of the memorial. Looking across at the Lincoln Memorial in the distance. The National Archives of the United States. The day begins in the National Archives in the Rotunda. We are here on early admission, which is why this place is not wall-to-wall people. There's George Washington, who never, ever would have dressed like that. So this is Pennsylvania Avenue, the Trump Hotel built in the old post office. And further down the street, lost a little bit in the haze, is the Capitol.